Okay, so we're recording the session. Hello and welcome to webinar Advanced E-commerce SEO Strategies. BJ, are you there?
I am.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, as just mentioned before, this is going to be a pretty fast-paced webinar. We're going to cover a lot of pretty technical information. Why don't we, hey BJ, let's get started.
All right.
Let me real quick, actually, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yep, so my name is BJ Enick. I'm the Vice President of Enterprise Accounts for Social SEO. I've been involved in digital marketing and SEO in some fashion or another for about the last 10 years. Got into it, started with affiliate marketing, and I've spent the last about 6 years we work with our larger e-commerce clients, so generally a few thousand SKUs and up, our international clients, and lots of our national partners.
All right, excellent. Hey, and I really appreciate your time. You taught the e-commerce SEO experts that I know, so I hope our attendees will get a lot of value out of this session. My name is Chris Ralph. I'm the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing. I used to compete against social SEO for a few years, and then my passion is teaching and training. I speak now globally around the world, so we teamed up about 2 years ago. BJ, if you want to skip to the next slide real quick, please. All right, so we teamed up so that I can focus on speaking and teaching. And it's been a great partnership for the last, 2+ years. That said, BJ, you got a lot to cover. Actually, let's go to the next slide. All right, I created a self-paced 7-hour-long online training. So we're gonna give away 2 seats to that training. So we'll ask a question, something that we'll cover, that BJ is going to cover during the training. And then the first 2 people who answer the question right will get access, complimentary access to that training. That said, BJ, it's all yours.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And it looks like we have a couple of people who are having some problems hearing us. We had one person mention the phone audio was bad. It wasn't super great. I will try to talk as clearly as possible and make sure that we can cover this efficiently and everybody can get something out of this. As Chris mentioned, this is going to be fairly fast-paced and at a fairly in-depth level. We are operating under the assumption that everybody here knows their way around Google Analytics. You know what a title tag is. You know what structured data is. This is a little bit more advanced. Each of these slides that I'm going to cover, we could probably spend a full day on, but I'm going to try to do my best to give them justice and give you guys some value out of this. Looking at our attendee list, we've got people from every type of website out there. There are some of you that only have 3 products, and there are some of you that have 10,000 plus. My goal today is that each of you can walk away with at least 1 piece of valuable information, something that is going to help you. If I can give each of you one good actionable item to walk away from here, then I feel like I've done my job. If at the end of this you have questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the QA box, or if we don't have time to get to all of them, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. So our agenda for this is I want to talk about what do you need in your tool belt when you're doing SEO for an e-commerce website. What do you need to understand your own current state and the competitive state? Some information about keyword research and intent, some technical considerations and technical SEO for an e-commerce site, which again, that's something we could spend a whole week on, but I want to cover some pitfalls that I've generally seen happen with e-commerce websites. Some on-page aspects, off-site and link earning, and then throughout this, I'm going to talk a bit about scaling and systems, and how you treat a 3-product website is very different sometimes than how you treat a 3,000 product website. The same systems don't always work. At the end of the day, everything that we do in SEO, and especially with e-commerce, comes down to revenue. Everything else in Google Analytics is a vanity metric and doesn't matter. Users, new users, sessions, conversions, none of that matters unless it is directly contributing to revenue. So when you're taking on an SEO project, you really, I think you need to always forefront of mind, is what I'm doing going to help contribute to sales and revenue? And if it's not, then you might want to reevaluate those priorities. And I understand, I absolutely recognize that different organizations have different priorities. What I'm putting forth out here, this is not the all-seeing, all-being, all-knowing Bible for SEO, but this is just some of what has worked for us in e-commerce. If you've got different things that have worked for you, fantastic. So starting out with the right tools for the job, to understand your current state and to understand the current state of your competitors, there's really kind of 5 core things that you need to be able to figure out. You need to understand your organic traffic, your Search Console data, your link metrics, your conversion metrics, and then, especially with larger sites, your indexation. And so if you've got 10,000 products, how many of them are actually getting indexed? And we'll get into more of this down the road. But understanding all of those metrics is really going to let you ask and answer 3 core questions. What is actually driving organic sales for my website? What should be driving sales but isn't? And where are my gaps? And if you can answer all 3 of those questions, you'll be able to lay out a game plan and pretty aggressively attack your site and make some substantial changes. So we start out with just your basic Google Analytics. So you're looking at acquisitions and you're looking at organic traffic through here. And I generally look at by landing page because, you know, the keyword column is generally not super helpful since it's all not provided. And this gives you that basic overview. What pages are getting the traffic? What do the bounce rate and interaction rates look like for these pages? What are my conversion rates? And how much revenue am I getting from those pages as a landing page? This is a great place to start. Gives you a 10,000-foot view of what's happening. But to really understand what's going on in your website, I would suggest you dive into your attribution and really understand that Google reports on last click attribution generally. In fact, there's something called last non-direct click attribution, which is generally what you're seeing there unless you've configured it out otherwise. And so you're looking at what is the last interaction that user took on the website before converting. And if it's the last non-direct click, it's not taking direct click, obviously, into consideration there, hence the name. But this lets you see, you know, what traffic mediums are converters, are tire kickers, and who's just at the wrong place. And then you can see how organic traffic and how organic sales contribute to all of this. Oftentimes, if you just look at that main view of Google Analytics, it's very easy to say, okay, well, this is exactly how much organic traffic is contributing to our website and to our sales. When in reality, organic may be playing a totally different supporting role. And so I would suggest spending some time in the attribution modeling section of Google Analytics and really being able to compare first interaction versus last interaction versus last non-direct click. You see that these metrics can change pretty drastically throughout this as we roll through it and as we look at the different attribution models. The other great place to spend some time is the multi-channel grouping paths within Google Analytics. And look at what every pathway was taken to get to actual conversion on your website. And so this is that same website that we saw the table layout for. And so when we look at this, something that's really interesting is we've got almost $500,000 of sales where organic search was how they started their interaction with the website, but it's not how they finished it. And some of these sales, we wouldn't have them attributed to organic traffic, but they never would have come to the website in the first place if they hadn't found it through organic search. So it's really important to understand how organic search plays into your product. If you sell a product that's $5, you're going to get a lot of people that are just first-time, one-time buyers. They're right there. It's an easy impulse buy. They're going to go. But if your price point is, if you have a luxury product or, you know, a product with a higher sales cycle, you may see very little, you know, last click attribution to organic sales. So it's important to understand how that all plays together. If you have not had a chance to explore the new beta Google Search Console, I highly recommend you do it. That's what this screenshot is from, and it is so much better than the old Search Console. They haven't moved all the functionality to it yet, but you can see data for like up to 18 months as opposed to this rolling 90 days that you generally see for your regular Search Console. With this, look at the individual pages, create a filter for a specific category or product page, and then go over to queries and see what is the page or the product actually showing in search results for. And then keep an eye out for pages that have a high average position but a really low CTR. If there's something that you're generally ranking really high for, but your click-through rate is just absolutely abysmal, it's usually indicative that you're either targeting the wrong type of keywords on that page, or your meta description is just really not doing the job of what you need to get people through. Something that I really like to do for e-commerce sites is if you've got a lot of categories, a lot of products, a lot of moving parts, create separate Search Console profiles for your categories. There's nothing to stop you from creating another Search Console category for mysite.com/shop, mysite.com/shop/category 1. And then it's just going to show you the metrics for those URLs. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. And if you're able to verify it through Google Analytics or Tag Manager, you should be able to instantly verify all of those. And you can get a wealth of information out of that and make it a little bit more manageable to digest. If I had one tool that I was only allowed to have for the rest of the time I did SEO, this would be it. This is a tool called Ahrefs. It is relatively affordable. I think you're looking at probably anywhere from the lower end, like maybe $80 a month to $200. This is a phenomenal tool for looking at where your current organic rankings are, even things you aren't directly tracking, looking at link metrics, top referring pages, top referring domains. You can see a ton of really good competitive, and Ahrefs is the name of that tool. I saw a couple people asking that.
Let me also put it into Ahrefs. Is it with an S or without?
There you go.
There we go.
And I don't get paid, by the way, for promoting any of these. That'd be amazing if I did, but these are just the things these are what's in my utility belt. So this is a really, really handy tool. You're going to see a lot of golf themes today, by the way. So if you hate golf, I'm sorry, but I'm working on a current project around this, so there's a lot of golf things going on today. But this is a great tool for looking at your competitors, looking at yourself, and like I said, you know, there are some amazing tools. If you work for a large organization and you guys are able to afford BrightEdge, Conductor, some things like that, awesome. For some people where that, you know, spending 10 grand a month is out of the question, this is a great alternative. Another really good competitive one is called SEMrush. And I'm sure somebody's going to correct me and say it's pronounced SEMrush. I'm sorry, I'm a heathen, that's how I pronounce it, SEMrush. This is like Ahrefs, but it shows a little bit more competitive data. And this is a really good way to see some kind of traffic and keyword ranking trends. Somebody asked me what's more credible, Ahrefs, DR and UR, or Mozbar's DA and PA. I would probably say Moz's DA and PA. The Ahrefs domain stuff is kind of a made-up metric, and nobody's ever been able to give me a super concrete answer as to how they calculate that. One of the things I like about SEMrush is that it shows you this traffic trend, and it's based on, if you're ranking #1 for a keyword that gets 1,000 searches a month, and the anticipated click-through rate at position 1 is 70%, they might say, all right, well, we think you're going to get 700 visits a month from this. And this is not empirical data by any means, but so don't take this to the bank, but it's good for seeing overall trends for your competitors and seeing really big search footprints. In comparison to SpyFu, I like this a little bit better. I think SpyFu is great for paid search stuff, whereas SEMrush is not as much. So I like SEMrush a bit better. If you're an in-house SEO person and you're listening, and oftentimes you find yourself having to justify your existence, this can be a great tool for you because you're able to point out the traffic cost, which again, don't take this to the bank, but this helps you gauge this is how much it would cost to buy this traffic in AdWords based on the CPC. So it can be handy. And then to tie it all together is a data aggregator. If you've got 10,000 products, you are not going to do this manually. You don't have the time. Nobody in your organization has the time. So you need something where you can pull all this data together quickly. So Google BigQuery, Supermetrics, URL Profiler, and yes, even Scrapebox. It is not just for black hat link building. There are a lot of legitimate purposes for Scrapebox, but something where you can pull lots of data together. Google BigQuery is going to be on the more expensive end. URL Profiler and Scrapebox is $99 one time, and there's a million videos out there for it. URL Profiler, I think, is $200 a year, and then Supermetrics, you're looking anywhere from $50 to a couple $100 a month, depending on how much you're doing. So you really want to be able to pull it all together and analyze trends, patterns, and really get a good current state picture of your website and understand your competitors. And so now that you've done all this investigation, you've got all this data, where do you start? Our general tenets of where we would start in prioritizing are pick one silo or category at a time. You're going to eat an elephant one bite at a time. So start with one category, start with your highest margin products and subcategories in there, and then if you can, pick areas where you have a ranking foothold, where you're in low page 1, mid page 2, where you can really move the needle on that. Because again, this is all about driving revenue. And if you're not making money, then it's not worth it. So you need to be able to really pick a point where you can make the biggest bang the quickest. Now, if you're listening, you're saying, that sounds great, but I have a brand new Shopify site and I have 5 products and I don't have any page 1 or page 2 rankings. That is okay. These still apply to you. Start with your highest product, or start with your highest margin product, and go from there. The basics are going to remain the same. Somebody just asked, if I'm launching a new business, how do you suggest I start? I'll circle back to that at the very end. And if I forget about you, make some noise so I don't. Our general rules of where we start on a website when it comes in is we do an audit, and we have 5 priorities ranging from 1 to 5, with a priority 1 being, oh my God, this is a fire. This is actively inhibiting your site from moving anywhere. And so that'd be like if you had a Robots.txt block for your entire website, or you indexed 3/4 of your site. That's where we would start. And then it goes all the way down to like, hey, on its own, this action is going to make a tangible difference, ranging to, wouldn't it be so cool if we could do this on the site? So that's how we break down our prioritization of a website. And everybody has their own process for it, but this is what has worked for us generally. And so now that you've investigated the site, you've prioritized where you're going to start, now it's time to start with the keyword research for a category or a product. And one of the biggest pitfalls that we see with people is they get sucked into the allure of search volume versus intent and fit to content. So they see a search term that's 50,000 searches a month. Yep, that's what we're going to target. That's what we're going to go after, when it's really not the best fit for that content, or maybe even for their site or their product. And at the end of the day, people only want to do 4 things when they're online. They want to know, they want to go, they want to do, or they want to buy. And in this case, we're dealing with the people who want to buy. And within that buying cycle, we break it down into 4 different types of keywords: awareness, consideration, conversion, and retention and re-engagement. And so on the awareness side, that's the very top of that funnel, so really broad and non-branded. So golf clubs. I told you there's going to be a lot of golf today. So at the top part of the very funnel is I'm looking for golf clubs. Well, then I start, that next step of the funnel is the consideration. So I've got 1 point of specificity in there. I'm looking for the best golf drivers because my game is horrible off the tee and I need some improvement. So what is the best golf driver out there? And then on the conversion side, we get to 2 or more points of specificity. So now I'm looking for a tailor-made M4 driver. Now, a little side note on all of this, depending on your product and your vertical, your converting terms, your consideration terms may not follow this pattern exactly, but this is a good rule of thumb. Oftentimes on conversion terms as well, you'll see things like buy, shop, you'll see action terms put into that. Longer tail keyword phrases is usually what we see. And then retention. So what kind of terms are people going to search that's going to make them come back to my site? So in this case, it would be the club upgrade program from TaylorMade. So the TaylorMade upgrade program. So we're able to kind of silo our keyword research into these are awareness, consideration, conversion, and retention-based phrases. It's important to understand as well that these keywords don't live in a silo. There's a relationship to all of these. They can come in at any point in this, and every time they come to the site, we want to bond with them, and we want them coming back. It is exponentially less expensive to keep a customer and keep them coming back than it is to go out and get a new one. Along with that trap for search volume is the transactional versus informational. And so when you're doing your keyword research, you want to really investigate those keywords after you've pulled them together, because the SERP landscape has changed massively over the last couple of years. It's not just search results anymore. It's not just organic search results. There's product and categories, there's news articles, lists, review sites, videos, blogs, ads. The SERP landscape has gotten so diverse that you really need to consider what's appealing for those searches and how does your content fit into that. And so this is a search for best golf drivers. So let's take a look at this and let's see what's showing up in here. Well, we've got text and shopping ads. We've got images. We've got quick answers. We've got videos. We've got 7 list and review sites. And we've got 1 transactional search result. So we may have thought best golf drivers, hey, that was the perfect keyword for this category page. Well, when we actually look at the search result landscape, there's only 1 transactional search result in there, and that's from Dick's Sporting Goods. And if you're big enough to where you're like Dick's Sporting Goods and you can take these SERPs head on, good on you. Bully your way in there, do it. But for everybody else, you know, your category, this tells you the category page isn't the right thing to target on this. That's not going to be the right content for this. It's also a good consideration to look at what the SERP layout is on mobile as well. Google Mobile has got these expanded text ads where, you know, it may take up the entire screen at first with just AdWords in there. And so you may find keywords you say, I don't want to go after this organically. It's better to do this on the paid side. Or the search results may be a little bit different on mobile. So now that you've got all your keywords and you've got them mapped out and you understand these are my conversion, this is my retention, my acquisition or my awareness, my consideration, start looking at what your content looks like and how it matches up to these terms. And again, this is not a concrete statement, but in general, this is how a lot of those keywords get mapped out. And so you can have multiple intent on multiple pages based on your content, your page titles, and so on and so forth. But generally, your product pages are going to be the conversion in your conversion page is going to be products and categories. Retention can be products, categories, or blog posts to get them coming back. consideration, categories, and blog posts. And awareness is generally going to be categories, blog posts, and main nav. So it's really good to understand, do you have the right type of content for this keyword? And you need to be honest with yourself. Can I compete in some of these spaces? If you can't compete for just golf clubs, that's okay. Target yourself for a longer term, more specific search on here. I've worked for a couple years with a guy who does men's dress wear, and he does, it's not $10,000 suits, it's $100 suits. And we made the decision a few years ago to not try to target men's suits. We're going to let Men's Warehouse play in that space. So we went after cheap suits and discount suits and things like that, and it's worked very well.
Hey, BJ.
So be realistic with yourself. Yes.
Well, actually, I'm beta testing a keyword research tool right now. It's a company out of Korea. They're called twinword.com. That's an awesome tool. You have so many filters. They really talk, it's all the conversion, consideration, retention, awareness, etc. So I'll put that into the chat box. But that's a pretty cool tool to check out.
Oh, I love that. I'll have to take a look at that. One of the biggest sections of SEO for e-commerce is the technical side of it. This is somewhere where you can go down a lot of rabbit holes, and we could spend a week talking about this. And I love to talk about technical SEO for e-commerce. I'll talk to people about this against their will in the office, and they have to listen to me, so it's great. But whether you have 10 SKUs or 100,000, the fundamentals of technical SEO for an e-commerce site are basically the same. You're controlling what the search engines find, you're controlling what the users see, and you're optimizing the experience for everybody. And so you really want to be able to take control of all aspects of that. You want to, and sometimes what the search engines need to see and what the users need to see might be different. And you really want to optimize that experience for both the crawler and the user. Now, we could go down tons of different places for technical SEO for e-commerce, but I want to cover a couple of common things that I've run into with e-commerce sites and give you guys some background info on that. Number one is the Noindex and the Robots.txt file. Use your Robots.txt file. That can be one of your greatest assets with an e-commerce site, especially if you have a big e-commerce site. But there's a lot of times some confusion between who does what here. And in your Robots.txt file, that can tell search engines to stop a URL from being crawled. It does not no-index a URL. Over time, a URL that's blocked by your Robots.txt file will eventually fall out of the index, but I've seen it take 6 weeks, I've seen it take 6 months. Google and other search engines just have to understand that I can't go to this page anymore, so eventually I'm just going to stop showing it in the search results. Think of your Robots.txt file, for those of you that aren't as familiar with it, as the rules of your house. And so to find on the back end of your site, it's mysite.com/robots.txt. This is the rules of your house that tells the crawlers you can come in the kitchen. If you go in the bathroom, take your shoes off. You're not allowed in the basement. And if you go upstairs, you have to wait 10 seconds before you go up the stairs. So it's the rules of your house. Most crawlers will respect this. Some won't. For those of you who have larger sites, use crawl delays on there sparingly. Sometimes people have a real need to use it, but it's kind of like putting 50-inch tires on a Jeep. A lot of people sometimes just do it because they think they need to or it looks cool, when in fact they don't actually ever need to use those 50-inch tires. Same thing with crawl delays. If you don't need a crawl delay in your Robots.txt file, don't use it. No indexing is another really powerful tool for e-commerce SEO, and we'll talk about this a little bit more here in a second. But a no index tag, that tells a search engine, remove this URL from your index. This says, hey, drop it. Interesting thing, if you put a no index tag on a page and then block it in the Robots.txt file, Google can't come back to it to see that there's a no index tag on that. So keep that in mind. Once crawled, it's and understood, a URL will usually fall out of Google in 1 to 2 weeks. I've seen it take a little bit longer, especially in other search engines, but generally 1 to 2 weeks, that URL won't show in search results anymore. When you no-index, you have the ability to no-index follow, which means, hey, Google, exclude this from search results, but go ahead and follow this through in your pathway. Like, understand this page is here, but just kind of skip over it. Or no-index, no-follow, which is tells Google, like, hey, when you hit this, this is a black hole. Don't follow anything through here, and don't follow any pathways through here. And there's somebody who's listening on this webinar that you and I went down an adventure together on this, and we learned the hard way that do not use a no-index, no-follow unless you really have a good reason to. There are very few legitimate reasons to use no-index, no-follow, so be sparing with that. And before you push any of this on your site, test it. There are tons of Robots.txt testing tools out there. There's one in Search Console. There are no-index testing tools. Use something like Screaming Frog or Moz as a crawl to understand where you might be no-indexing things. You can no-index URLs in your Robots.txt file, but I don't recommend it. And John Mueller from Google just came out recently and said they didn't recommend it either. But test everything, because you can inadvertently block huge portions of your website with really, really bad effects. The other area where I see a lot of people run into issues with e-commerce is with sorting and creating duplicate pages. So allowing your visitors to use faceted navigation or to sort products is fantastic for user experience, and it is statistically proven to increase conversion. When I don't have to go through every single page, every single product, I can just filter out the ones that I want. So in this case, so let's say I'm looking for fishing lures, and I'm on the hard bait lures here, but I only want to look at crankbaits. Well, I created a new URL, but nothing else on the page changed. It's still the same products, still the same content, but I created a duplicate page now and duplicate content. And if you've got tons of different filtering options, you can create an exponential amount of duplicate pages, duplicate content, and you can really get yourself into trouble over time with creating thousands and thousands of low-value pages. How this is addressed is through a canonical tag. And if you do sorting or any type of internal search, what I tell people is practice safe sorting. Always use a canonical. Make sure that you're telling Google, you're giving Google a single point of truth. And for those of you who aren't as familiar with canonicals, this highlighted section here is telling Google and telling search engines that, hey, this is a duplicate page you're on. It's supposed to be duplicate. We understand that. Look over here. Here's this canonical URL. That's our single point of truth for this page. Ignore everything else. When you canonical a page to another, that's essentially a no index. So keep that in mind. However, canonicals can also cause you problems. So this website up here, this is a product page that I navigated to. So it's /collections, /men's compression socks, /products, /AW style, product name. Well, that's how I get to it as a navigation, and that's how a search engine crawler would try to get to this page as well. But the canonical tag on it is for a different URL. So one of these things is not like the other. We're actually missing a whole part of this URL that we're canonically it to. And so, again, if you're doing this intentionally, hey, there are legitimate reasons to do that. But what this did for this website is it created a situation where the crawlers come to the home page, they then follow the navigation to the categories, and then they follow that navigation to the subcategories, and then they try to go to the products, but when they hit that canonical, it's actually sending them to a totally different page than they followed in the navigation. So oftentimes, there are no direct links to product pages. Now, if you have a good XML sitemap or all sorts of a good internal linking structure, search engines will find these products. But this can create a huge issue for product indexation. If you've got more than 1,000 products, this is definitely something that you need to be investigating to make sure so you're getting proper product indexation. If you have a Magento site, definitely look into this. Also, if you have a Shopify site, look into this, because both of those CMSs are notorious for this happening. Within Magento, there's some settings, literally just in the back end of Magento under system configuration, where you can change this. In Shopify, it's a little bit different. You've got to play with the liquid web file. But there's a lot of really good information out there for both those CMSs about this. So make sure that your canonical tags are working properly. And somebody just asked a great question that I was actually just going to get to about rel canonically color pages to the main product page. So the example I use for this, if you sell T-shirts and you have a page for green T-shirts, red T-shirts, orange T-shirts, and red T-shirts, should you canonical all those back to a single T-shirt page? My off-the-cuff answer would be yes, unless you're going to make each of those pages unique. So if you're willing to make that red T-shirt page totally unique in terms of the content and the experience than the green T-shirt one, then no, you can totally have individual pages out there for each color. But it's all about understanding, are these pages basically just duplicate content, or do these actually serve a unique individual purpose? So depending on your site, if you use mostly the same copy, I would probably just change the copy then. I would put the time in to make unique product descriptions for each of those. However, when you have tons and tons of pages, this is what you can run into is index bloat. Now, if you had talked to me in 2012, I would have told you the more pages, the better. And because Google Hummingbird wasn't really around yet, where Google could contextually understand the difference in keywords and in searches, we created a different page for every single keyword. So there was a page for green T-shirts and a page for T-shirts that were green, and a page for buy T-shirt that is green. And so you ended up with tons of these just thin or low value pages. And so oftentimes you need to sit down and be honest with yourself, hey, does every one of my pages deserve to be in the index? Oftentimes the answer is probably not. So if you've got thin content, duplicate content, or competing duplicative content, where you've got pages that are basically about the same subject and are competing with each other, or just really old or outdated content, it may not need to be in search results. And so below, this is a real-life example we're going to go through. This is a website that had 61,000 pages indexed. Interestingly, they do not have 61,000 products. They've got about 20,000, maybe a little bit less. So there were tons of duplicate pages, all sorts of things. If you have your data aggregator, how you address this is you need to take a look at every single URL on your website. How we do this is we create these massive spreadsheets. And this is where your data aggregator comes into play, because I'm not doing this manually. But you look at every single page on the website. You look at, is that page actually indexed in Google? What are the organic traffic metrics to it for the last 12 months? The users, sessions, bounce rates. And then how many links are coming to this page? What does this page rank for? And our process internally, and everybody's got their own way of valuing a URL, but if you look at that column there, action, we assign a disposition to this URL. We say, hey, we're going to keep this page live, but we're going to improve it. This page, don't touch it. Or, you know what, this page, we need it there for the users if they want to navigate to it, but it doesn't need to be in search results. So we're going to no index, follow, and remove it from the sitemap. That's a really key part to this. If you no index a page, don't give it to Google to tell it to come crawl it. Take it out of the sitemap. Because if you have thousands and thousands of pages, you're wasting a lot of crawl budget time by telling Google to try to crawl no index pages. If there's good links coming to it, but the page is just old, really isn't doing it anymore, we don't need it. 301 it to a relevant page, one up. Use that link equity to put into another page. Also, you could just 404 it. 404 errors are not inherently bad. 404 just means the page is gone. Sometimes people think that, oh, well, I have to redirect, I can't have 404s, I need to redirect every page. Well, okay, if your site got hacked and you had the buy Viagra here, and then that page becomes 404 and you fix the hack, are you going to redirect that? Probably not. So it's a, decide how you want to handle pages. And that site where we had 60,000 indexed pages, we did nothing but no indexed pages on that site. So all we did was go through and clean up the index footprint. We went from 61,000 pages down to 24,000, and doing nothing else, that increased organic traffic by 71, almost 72%, and increased conversions by 68% because it improved the overall keyword rankings. The way I describe this process to people is it's kind of like if somebody's got a mullet. When you look at it from the front, it might be, and think of like Joe Dirt mullet. So you look at it from the front and you might be like, oh, that's an okay haircut. And then they turn to the side and you go, whoa, there's a lot of unnecessary things there. That being said, if you have a mullet, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you. Some people can pull it off. But you're really just giving this thing a haircut, and you're cleaning up the overall search imprint so you're not being associated with thousands of low-value pages. And somebody asked a really good question about, do you think 404 errors may result in a lower conversion rate? Would you recommend quality CTAs on old pages that are ranking well for qualified products? So if you have, you want to make sure if you're 404ing pages that you clean up internal links to those pages. And if it's a page that's getting traffic, you probably want to 301 it instead of 404 it. And, I would definitely, if you're going to 404 a page, you could put call to actions on there. I think that might be what you're asking, CTAs on old pages that are ranking well for qualified products. I definitely put CTAs on those pages to let them, to drive them to different and better pages that go through there. Oh, apparently I answered that correctly. Perfect. So take charge of your search footprint. Don't let it just get way out there. If you take nothing else away from today, if you have a big e-commerce site, go through this exercise. Look at your indexation and really look at what needs to be there. Something else that is a huge part of SEO these days is mobile. Google's been hammering us, starting with having to have a mobile site to now this mobile first indexing. It is here. It is real, and we're seeing it make impacts and changes already. We've been getting these notifications from Search Consoles for the last couple of weeks of, hey, this site is getting moved to mobile first indexing. And what that means is the value and relevancy of your site is now tied to your mobile experience. And so you can confirm this if you have access to your own log file. Look and see if Googlebot Mobile is coming to your site. I would also recommend using something like Screaming Frog to crawl your site as Googlebot Mobile and understand what that experience is like. And if you have a separate mobile site like m.mysite.com or mysite.com/mobile/m, make sure you have got your rel alternates set up on there and that you have an appropriate switching pathway to understand to serve people the mobile version or the desktop. Because otherwise what starts to happen is you're going to see mobile search results, mobile URLs showing up in desktop search results, which is a bad experience. Or you might inadvertently serve Google or a user the desktop version when they're on their mobile device, and that's going to be bad too. So you really need to take charge of that. If you're using a I don't know if Due to Mobile is still around, but if you're using like a third-party subdomain website where it's like, mymobilesite.duetomobile.com, I would really recommend looking at getting a different solution for that. I can't, and maybe it works well, but I can't speak to that super authoritatively right now. The other big part of this mobile first indexing, though there's some debate about this, is going to be speed. Google's been hounding us about speed for a couple years now. you know, if you use the Page Speed Insights tool, it'll tell you literally exactly what you need to do to work on your page speed. If you're listening and you're an internal SEO person and you've got to fight with IT about the speed side of this, just tell them, hey, we're going to lose money if we don't make this thing faster. A lot of times IT people's tools will come back with like, oh, our time to first byte is really fast. We don't need any of this. Google is wrong. Google is not wrong. And even if Google is wrong, it's their opinion that matters when it comes to speed. So if you're using a bunch of other tools that tell you that life is just peachy, but Google is telling you that you've got problems, you need to listen to Google. So you can use the Page Speed Insights tool. There are also other tools. Somebody else just mentioned GT Metrics. We have a paid account with GT Metrics. I love GT Metrics. You can set up to run a scan on your site or pages at any given time during the day, and it'll ping you if the response time is higher than it should be. There's another one called Think with Google that they have their own testing one, and it'll give you a free report, which isn't a whole lot different than what you get through Page Speed Metrics, but if you're having to give this to some C-level folks to explain why you need the budget to make your site faster, this can really help. Somebody asked about case for mobile-only sites. I would not recommend that. I have heard horror stories as well. There are some really bad things that have happened where, you know, it's just a mobile-only site showing on desktop. Me personally, I'll back out of that entirely. I don't like it, and most users don't as well. And so while everybody's hypothesized, like, oh, speed is important, we need this, now we know for sure. And this is just 2 days ago, Google rolled out a speed update, and this is related to your mobile speed. If your website is okay right now and you make it a little bit faster, you're probably not going to see a big lift. But if you've got a really slow website and you make some changes, expect to see a really big boost from yourself. So pay attention to speed. This is really important now. And there's a lot you can do on-site with image compression and all those things. Again, this is something where we could talk for a week. But a few notes about your hosting environment, especially for e-commerce. If you sell nationwide and you're not on a self-hosted CMS like Shopify, Illusion, BigCommerce, look at investing in a CDN. If you've got people coming in from all over the country or all over the world, spring for a CDN. It'll be worth it. But just because you have a CDN does not mean your site is lightning fast all of a sudden. Also, don't skimp on your hosting. This is like skimping on the foundation for your house. Good hosting is not cheap, and cheap hosting is not good. If you are on Magento or Magento 2, especially like if you're on Magento 2 Enterprise, you really need to pay attention to your hosting, and you need good hosting. It is not going to be cheap, but it will be worth it, I promise. You should also consider using an Nginx server rather than an Apache one. Nginx is ridiculously fast, but you need to understand the trade-offs there. For those of you that are more technically inclined, there is no cPanel in Nginx right now. You're not going to have an FTP. You're going to have to use something like PuTTY and SSH and get into the site. So you're really going to need to understand what your limitations are for that. Good hosting options for Magento 2 that somebody just asked. Off the top of my head, I don't have one. I will, if Chris is able to see who's asking this question, I will shoot you over some options that we've seen success with at the end of this webinar. We don't personally do any hosting, so I don't always have great answers for that, but I'll get you some.
Actually, hey Tyler, make sure to shoot me an email. I'm leaving for business trip right after this webinar, so I don't want to forget. So I'll put my email in here real quick. Go ahead, PJ, sorry.
I can tell you for sure, don't use shared hosting for Magento. Do dedicated. So getting outside of the technical, which we could talk for days about that, and I wish we could, but I want to move into some on-page things. One of the biggest on-page issues we see for e-commerce sites is duplicate content. And that comes in through two forms. On-site, so like an internal search result, your cart pages that might be getting indexed, product review specific pages, You might have duplicate product descriptions, products without a canonical, SID URLs. Those of you who are on Magento, you know what I'm talking about, the session IDs, and multiple URL paths. So a product might be available under Category 1 and Category 2, and it's being indexed in both formats, so you have a duplicate product there. Also, offsite. If you are working with affiliate marketers, which you can do great things with that, or product feeds, manufacturer descriptions, selling on eBay and Amazon, you're probably using the same product description. Now, I know it's not what everybody wants to hear, but you should put in the work to make that, especially on the offsite side, to make that unique. Like, you want to take care of yourself first. It's like when the oxygen masks come down in a plane and they say, put your own mask on before helping out anybody else. It's the same thing with product descriptions. You know, you can give the blanket ones to your affiliates and your product feeds, but make your own for your website. And you may be saying, but those pull directly from my website. There are some solutions for that. Feedonomics is a really good one that has some solutions for that. For on-page, a lot of this can be addressed through rel Canonicals, Robots.txt, no indexing, and then creating unique descriptions, which we're going to get into that here in a second. Another great thing to do is, somebody had a really great question that I want to answer first about, you've got multiple URL paths and not losing the path in the canonical that aren't connected. Just pick a main category path. So one of the things that you can do is you can set it to where it's just /product name. If your website's young enough and you can get away with doing that without creating mass chaos, I would recommend you move everything to where it's just /product name. But if you've got right now, you've got Category A, Product 1, and Category B, Product 1, I would pick one where you've got the most rankings and the most traffic, because you're going to be targeting the same thing, and just canonical one to the other. And so put a manual canonical tag into there and pick it that way. Oh, perfect. Looks like they've done just /product names. They're all set. Another really powerful thing on e-commerce is user-generated content. So we're back to the golf clubs. This is a golf club that a lot of sites have. And how much unique are you really going to be able to say about tailor-made M2 irons? Probably not a lot without starting to just sound really weird or burning out your content writers. So let's have the buyers do the work for us. So this club has got 133 reviews on it. And if you look at the content of what these people are putting in these reviews, this is all helping support the relevancy for that search term for this. So using something like, there's third-party tools like Trustpilot, Yotpo. Yotpo is my personal favorite. If you're interested in that, by the way, we can probably get you a pretty good deal through a rep that we have with Yotpo. Again, we don't get paid for saying that. It's just I really like it because it'll automatically mark up these products with the structured with these reviews with the structured data for review. It'll mark up the stars. It'll mark up everything, and then you get these nifty rich snippets where you can get the star reviews showing in there. So there's a lot of really good things that can come from user-generated content. So I highly recommend if you have products because it gives social trust. You get content on the page, and you get rich snippets. I don't know, I think the tool somebody asked, there wasn't a tool I was using on this, but Yotpo and Trustpilot were the two that I was referencing for this. FYI, neither of them are going to be cheap, but they're worth it. They're worth the investment. And whoever said you would love an introduction to the rep at Yotpo, just email Chris or myself and let us know, and we will take care of that.
Hey, BJ, should I just include it in my follow-up email to everybody, or do we want to do that on a case-by-case basis?
You can do it in the follow-up email.
Okay.
And
cool.
you can just give them. Yep.
Yeah, I'll wait to get the information from you, and then I'll send it. Cool.
Perfect. And so speaking of product descriptions, this is something that I believe is crucial for e-commerce sites. So this is two websites, two product pages, that are trying to sell the exact same product. I spent a lot of time working with restaurant supply companies, and this is a disposable clamshell container for berries. You got the one on the left and then the one on the right. Which of these provides more value to search engines and to the user? And a lot of times companies just put the manufacturer's description in there. It is absolutely worth creating unique product descriptions for every product. If you've got 10,000 products, it means it's going to take a while. And I would put a system in place where a new product doesn't go up on the website until it has a unique product description on it. And the reason that it's worthwhile is if you don't have unique descriptions on every product and a unique value, you're just battling for links at that point. It's just it's a pure battle of strength. And can you take on Amazon, Walmart, eBay head to head? If you can, awesome. Then you might have some other priorities. But if not, you got to differentiate yourself. When people ask, well, how do I come up ahead of Amazon, eBay, Overstock? It's because your page provides better value to a searcher and does a better job of answering the searcher's question than Amazon's or eBay's or Overstock does. It is absolutely doable, but you need to put the time in on your product pages. So I've got another example for you that this is a website that they had just manufacturers' product descriptions. And starting in January of this year, all we did was create new product descriptions for several thousand products. And I believe right now we're through like 4,000 products. And so that's all we've done is new product descriptions. And it's made a substantial impact on organic traffic and revenue. So it is worth doing that. Another on-page aspect that's really important for e-commerce is structured data. However, like all good things, we all abused it, which is why Google doesn't let us have nice things. And they now hand out manual actions for spammy structured data like it is candy. So you really need to be judicious in your usage of structured data. The biggest offense we see is people they want those review stars. They say, I want my product to show up with the reviews, with the review stars and search results. But if you don't have any reviews on your page that you can reference back to, you can't use review stars. And so that's the number one thing I see people get dinged for. The other thing that happened, and just a little bit ago, there was a huge issue with Yoast where the auto structured data markup that it was using created a bunch of incorrect stuff for recipe schemas, and thousands of people got handed spammy structured data markups. So if you have a plugin or an extension on your website that automatically creates structured data markups, cool, that's great for scaling, but look in Search Console and make sure that it's doing it correctly. If you have a website that doesn't have a plugin for this, or you don't trust plugins, or you've got a different system that you're on on something like CS Cart or an old version of OS Commerce that doesn't let you do this, and you're saying, how am I going to build 10,000 of these manually? You don't need to. Use our friend Google Tag Manager. You can dynamically insert markups. You can create variables for different DOM elements or CSS selectors on the page, and one tag can create product markups for thousands of products at once. We even use Tag Manager on some sites where you can't make it do certain things to overwrite titles and meta descriptions. Tag Manager is a crazy versatile tool. For structured data, what that looks like is you create a normal schema like you would, but instead of putting the brand name, the image, you create these variables that will just dynamically reference aspects of the page to build that. Again, this is one of those things that we could spend a week on. If you've got questions about this, let us know, and we would love to take you through it. Again, Tag Manager is one of those things I'll talk to people about against their will, so we'd love to talk to you more about it and using that for e-commerce. That then takes us to... Yes.
Oh, so hey, we're at the top of the hour. How much longer?
I've got 2 slides.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
Yep. So the last part I want to talk to is probably the most contentious part of SEO, and you will get the most differing opinions. So I'm going to try to be as benign as possible here, but give you something useful, is links. Link earning for e-commerce is a little bit more difficult than local sometimes. In other ways it's easier. There is no magic bullet. This is going to be a time investment. Do this right or don't do it at all, but you're going to need to put some time into it. And for e-commerce, there's really three ways that we see people succeed in this and that we succeed in this. One is donate. Give away free stuff. Do contests, do giveaways, give things to schools, community causes. You'll get really good branded or naked anchor text that are usually coming to your homepage or a top nav page. We've seen people end up with links from local and state governments, even federal government in one case, because they donated a bunch of paper plates and restaurant supply stuff to a shelter. They got a tax write-off. It did not cost them a lot, and they felt good, they looked good, and they got a bunch of good stuff out of it. If you're doing a contest or a giveaway, sometimes you have to create a separate page for that. Cool. Create a separate page, get all the links to it. When the contest is over, redirect that page to whatever you want to put the equity into. Second one is create. A lot of people think that this is played out. It is not. Create product guides, create calculators, conversion charts. We saw somebody that created a suit calculator guide that drives tons of links through that. There is somebody we saw the other day that created a metric to inches conversion chart that has tons of links to it. Create long-form how-to guides. So really create a guide about if you sell auto parts, create a great visual text guide with a video accompanied about how to change your oil for a specific car. You can get lots of really good branded or naked anchor text or even quasi-keyword anchor text. And the final one I suggest is pitches. So be a media source inquiry, do direct outreach. The sky is the limit for this. We have gotten links from AmericanExpress.com, the New York Times, USA Today. You can get tons through doing this. The easiest place to do this, there is a place called Help a Reporter Out, or HARO. If you take nothing else from this, go create a HARO account today and start getting media feeds from that. If you're in an organization that you have your own PR department, start working directly with them. And the spelling, it's literally Help a Reporter Out. If you just do a Google search for HARO, H-A-R-O, that'll bring it up. And you'll see some information. Thanks, Chris. These are the type of media inquiries you get. So you've got 3 times a day you can get media feeds for, hey, I need products for my bar product guide, or I need somebody to tell me about what are you doing wrong with coffee. Well, if you sell coffee, if you sell pancakes that go great with coffee, if you sell coffee machines, you can respond to this and say, hey, here's all the ways somebody's screwing up their morning cup of coffee, and you get a link back. Or a gift guide for teenage boys. You will see some crazy things come through these media feeds. And there are some paid ones as well that are worth it. No matter what your product is, you will see a couple of these that come through. However, I need to preface this with don't respond to things with off-the-wall inquiries. Like, genuinely answer the questions. Put the effort into it, because if the journalists flag you as being somebody who's just spamming or wasting their time, you can get kicked off of here. But if you're willing to go step up to the plate and swing 10 times a day, you may strike out 9 times out of 10, but you will hit a lot of home runs out of it. So that takes us through the end of this. I'm sorry that I used up so much of our time and ran a little bit over, but I sincerely appreciate you guys coming today and listening to our webinar about some advanced e-commerce SEO tactics. Contact information for social SEO and for Chris is right on here. My direct email is just bj, B as in boy, J as in Juliet, at socialseo.com. If you've got any questions, hit up Chris. And Chris, if we've got a couple more minutes, I'm happy to do some questions. But I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Awesome. That was amazing. Hey, why don't let's quickly do the giveaway, and then we'll answer questions. If you guys want to stay online, we still have most people online, so let's maybe take another 5 minutes or so to answer questions. What's the one tool that BJ would pay for? The first 2 people who answer this question will win. All right, and we have the winners. Dan and Amy. Hey, I'm also Casey. You were third. You're all in the same exactly right time. Why don't you guys send me an email with the email that I should use to sign you up, and then I'll just sign you up for the online training. It's not super technical, but hopefully you'll get some value out of that. Cool. If you have questions, PJ, I thought it was great that you answered questions as we did the webinar. Please send them over. We'll stay on for a little bit longer. But I thought PJ did an awesome job answering those questions during the presentation. Let me see. Danny, did you answer that as well? Oh, yes. Okay, Dan, yes, please send me an email as well. Send it to me to Chris at boulderseomarketing.com. All right.
We do have 2 questions, Chris, that I didn't answer that I saw. One was 3D Cart. I like 3D Cart. They've got the speed side on 3D Cart. You can do a lot with image compression and serving scaled images. But I think 3D Cart is pretty underrated, actually. They've got amazing technical support, too. So I really like that. And then I'm glad you spoke up again. Where to start with a brand new business? If you're looking to start a brand new e-commerce business, I would look at, depending on how big you're looking to make this, if you're looking, you're only going to have 5 products and it's a fairly basic, you could look at something like Squarespace. They're not my favorite, but that's a good low-cost option. If you've got some tech skills yourself, look into setting up a WordPress WooCommerce site. And if you're looking to do some more volume on the other end, Shopify is a good one. Non-commerce. I'm not familiar with that. I'll look at that though, and shoot Chris an email, and I'll take a look at that one. I've heard it, but I'm not very familiar with it. But I would start there. Take a look at what the top guys are doing in that industry for whatever product you're selling. If you're selling dog leashes, look at what the top dog leash sellers are doing and try to replicate that. Make that content your own. Make everything your own through there. And there is an introduction to SEO course that Moz does with Rand Fishkin. That is absolutely worthwhile watching. Take one of Chris's courses. Or there's tons of other free online resources for SEO, and really just kind of take it through that step. But definitely, start with good keyword research and get started with a site. Somebody else asked, if eBay and Amazon are not serious search competitors, what are other things you would concentrate on instead of unique product descriptions? Even if Amazon and eBay are not serious search competitors, I would absolutely still do unique product descriptions, and I would do category descriptions as well. So really creating a good category description about what's there, what are they going to find within that, and giving Google and the user a good explanation. And then I would put some serious time into creating some, I won't say background content, but creating some good content outside of product and categories that you can start using to reference for links. And so that when somebody when a journalist says, I've got I need somebody who can talk to me about, what's the perfect size for a dog bowl? Well, hey, I just wrote some content on that. Great. Another question was, what's a good word count for a product description? That's very dependent on what your product is, but generally I like, 75 to 150 words. A lot of it depends, too, on what your layout looks like. But I would say a minimum of probably 75 words would be a good product description. If it's a more competitive or more robust or more complicated product, I've got people, I mean, granted these people sell $300,000 aesthetic laser machines, but their product descriptions are 500 words. But I try to be in that 75-word range. Somebody said they have a question, which that's a great start.
Actually, Amir,
feel free to put it into the chat.
Maybe I can unmute Amir. Let me unmute Amir. I'm going to unmute you real quick if you want to just go ahead and ask the question. You're unmuted, Amir. Oh. Hey, Amir, can you hear us? No, I'm going to mute you again. Oh, boy. All right, there we go.
Oh, somebody said, how much should I pay per month for a good hosting company? That is a super loaded question. If you've got a basic WooCommerce website and you've got 50 pages and you've got 20 products, you can probably get away with, GoDaddy or, something like that, and you can pay $15 a month. If you have a Magento website and you're looking at good hosting, you may be paying upwards of $150 a month for good Magento hosting. But again, if you're on Magento Enterprise, you already spent $100,000 on your site, so $150 shouldn't be a huge deal. Though feel free to pop back in there about what kind of website it is that you're looking about hosting for, and I might be able to give you a better ballpark range. But for a basic site, you're probably looking at anywhere from $15 to $20 a month. Magento site, a couple hundred possibly. So we said, what is the best off-page technique in 2018? The one that I think most people are not paying attention to is unlinked mentions and brand sentiment. So being mentioned without actually having a link back to your website, that is still valuable. It's just like a no-followed link. Google is still understanding that you're being mentioned, and it builds the brand relevancy. We've seen that have an impact on knowledge graph and just overall brand placement. So I think unlinked mentions are probably the biggest off-page technique that people are not paying attention to. So you said hosting for Magento 1.9 versus 2. I don't think there's a difference in hosting companies. It's going to be the same regardless. I almost don't want to answer this one because I'm going to get myself into trouble. What should it cost to have somebody build an e-commerce site for a company with under 50 products? That entirely depends on the functionality and the platform. You might be looking at as little as a few $1,000s, or I've seen a 50-product website that's cost $20,000 plus, depending on that. I would definitely get multiple quotes. Get 10 quotes from 10 different companies about building a website. Talk to Chris, and we can get you the names of a couple people we work with. Again, we don't get paid for that, but could be helpful. Depends on when they might be good fit for you, they might not be. Another one, we've had success with Facebook advertising. As we increase our budget, our return on ad spend decreases and ultimately becomes unprofitable. 100% agree. Facebook has Facebook marketing. I would look at creating some different silos off of that, and you may be at a point of saturation on Facebook, and that's one where we'd have to look at the individual case, I think.
There's some big changes coming.
Yeah, and Facebook's getting some really big changes that are coming down the pipe in the near future as a result of GDPR and data stuff. So reach out to us. Reach out to Colin or Chris, and we'll have a conversation with you about it. E-commerce is just 10 products using WordPress. I use Just Host. Is there a better hosting company? I don't have a lot of experience with Just Host, so I don't think I can. Answer that super well. My personal favorite for hosting is I use either SiteGround is a really good one. They have great support. And then we use a local company called Springs Hosting that they do a lot of really good customer service and really good hosting for us. What is real-time update? I'm going to need a little bit more context on real-time update from whomever asked that question.
Yeah, I think
how would you?
Oh, sorry. How Google is merging all, Penguin, Panda into one script as we speak, so everything is real time. They merge all these separate algorithms into one script, so they're like on their path to doing so.
I didn't catch that.
So you know how like Penguin was its own algorithm that hit a certain time?
Oh yeah, Penguin 4.
Yeah,
so
they're merging everything into one, algorithm. So everything is, real at that time. It's one algorithm basically.
I'll pop back into Penguin here in a second, but somebody asked, how would you find unlinked mentions? I would look for a social listening tool. There are some free ones out there. Just do a Google search for social listening, and you can see where it mentions your brand name through there. And then also Moz has some great social listening tools. For other places with how would you find unlinked mentions, like how would you find opportunities for it? One really good way has been that I've seen people do is through podcast interviews, because the transcripts get posted and they end up getting unlinked mentions through that. Also, just through the media inquiries, like doing doing interviews, having your brand name mentioned through there. And then another one is through, you need to be really careful with this, but there are some opportunities, through, I'm trying to figure out how to best say this, but don't go into a forum and do a bunch of self-promotion, but within forums, if your company is getting mentioned as, for instance, I work with an essential oils manufacturer, and they spend a lot of time in aromatherapy forums, and their name gets mentioned a lot. And we believe we've seen some correlation coming through there. But don't go into a forum and just post your name a whole bunch. Going back to what somebody was saying about Google real-time update in Google Penguin. Oh, sorry, your questions got broken apart. I didn't understand that. So with Penguin 4 in October 2016, they said that Penguin would be running in real time now. So links would be devalued as they came in, or you wouldn't have to be waiting for these algorithmic shifts to run Penguin again to get out from under the sandbox. I have been seeing that that's largely true, but I've still seen people get manual actions for link penalties. So be diligent pay attention to what you're doing with link building. It used to be that, well, when they ran the Penguin update, it would just bring down the hammer and you'd see hundreds of sites get penalized and disappear. And now it should just be they're evaluating your link profile in real time. And they're throwing them out as they come. It is still worth doing disavow files if you've got a bunch of junk in there. But I feel like Penguin 4 is generally doing a good job of understanding, evaluating the link profile in real time. Next question, if you're running Google AdWords campaigns to drive traffic to your site, does that help increase your organic SEO? Short answer is no. Google has flat out said those are two totally independent things. They are not connected. There are some conspiracy theories out there that the two of them are attached. However, we've seen some sites be very, very successful without using AdWords. I think it's helpful for sales. It can be helpful for building, a brand conversion funnel. But I would not say that if you run AdWords, it is going to help you rank higher for certain terms. How do you feel about associating a company name with a product in comment sections of blogs? Same thing as forum. So I'm wondering if you're asking about...
Non-branded mentions.
Yeah.
No branded mentions.
Okay.
Non-linked.
I don't have an issue with that if it's happening in a legitimate manner of there is a valid reason for you to be associating a company name with a product in the comment section of a blog or with forums, absolutely. I would definitely not, I would not make your profile name that's responding, best golf clubs for sale, where it's linking back to your quote-unquote homepage. But if it's part of the natural conversation, yeah. If it's legitimate, do it. And I think that was our last. That is our last question, and that is going to take us to the end of our time limit here. So I sincerely appreciate all of you joining today, and if you've got other questions or something pops up, contact information is right there, and Chris will have it in the follow-up email.
Awesome. Hey, BJ, thank you so much. That was a great topic, a great webinar. Maybe we can do a part 2 at some point down the road. We still have 50 people online at the very end for the Q&A. I'll be traveling for business. I'll probably have my team help out with answering questions. Colin, I hear you there in the background. I hope we can help with that. With that said, BJ, thank you so much. Let's do this again sometime soon. Thanks so much for your interest, and we're here to help if you need us. All right. Thanks, everybody.